Welcome back to the John Frederick Show this chilly Monday. Common sense for the Commonwealth. We are broadcasting from the nation's capital where we cover Virginia like a glove. This is your one-stop shop for the truth. We are the undisputed, no gibberish and no nonsense, common sense voice of the Commonwealth. And one thing you can take to the bank from us, you're going to get it straight. This is the Straight Talk Express.
John, is that a pitching glove or is it a passing glove as in football? Have we moved on to spring training yet?
We're going right to spring training,
okay.
Especially because I picked the wrong team in the Super Bowl. So now I'm done with it. Pay my gambling debt, and that is it. I'm done. I got to go right on to baseball.
Excellent.
Glad
to see you're already wearing your Houston Astros shirt in the studio today.
I got my Astros shirt on right here.
Not bad.
I know. We're going to lose another 110 games this season, the third time in a row. So I might as well sport my colors before the season starts, because as soon as it starts, it's a catastrophe, especially with us going into the American League West, where any chance of not losing 100 games, again, has gone away, as we will be dwelling in the cellar yet once again. But the good news about my Astros going to the AL West, here's the good news. I'm very excited about it.
Yes.
1/3 of their games will not start until after I go to bed. Therefore, I do not have to suffer through at least 1/3 of their games. I'm asleep in bed, and I don't have to watch them lose. I can just tune in to the score when I get up. And so I save myself 60 games of pain and anguish.
Well, you know, the one thing that I share with our next guest, both of us here in Northern Virginia, we are both rabid Nationals fans. And please welcome our next guest, former state senator, former Virginia delegate, and current candidate, one of the Magnificent Seven, for the GOP nomination for Lieutenant Governor, Jeannemarie Davis. Good morning.
Good morning. Go Nats.
See,
Great
there
to
you
have
go.
you with us, Jeannemarie. Well, you got her all fired up, Steve, about your Nats.
Yeah, we might actually go to the World Series this year, so we're very excited about the possibilities.
That's
Well,
what I'm
very
talking
close,
about. That's
right?
what I'm talking about.
Didn't you guys blow like a 6-run lead in the bottom of the
Quiet,
third?
it never happened.
Something like that? With one of your top pitchers on the mound?
Quiet,
or something?
that never happened.
I think, if I recall, my memory serves me correctly.
All right, Astro boy.
Okay, well, you got a better shot than our team does.
He's bitter, isn't he? He's so bitter.
He is indeed. Jeannemarie, how can you even come on a show with a guy that supports the Astros?
I don't know. All I know is the Nats went to the playoffs. I mean, geez.
and not just watched them on TV like the Astros.
Well,
there you go.
We're not even in the same league now.
Well, John, you come on up and we'll take you to a Nats game, and I know you'll be converted in no time.
I'm going to take you up on that. A team that can actually win a game. Instead of, I've been suffering for 2 seasons. We had 106 losses, and then we followed that up with 110. So I guess next season's 120 losses. 50 and 120.
Right now, as of 8:42 on Monday, February 4th, the Astros have already been mathematically eliminated from the playoffs.
There you go. Why bother even playing, right?
Exactly. Turn in your uniforms, get off the bus, and go home.
It's a sad state of affairs, but I'm a long-suffering fan, and I will continue to suffer. Now, talk about suffering. Okay, I got to get to this, Gene. We're talking about suffering. Okay. Jamie Ratke ran for the nomination for the United States Senate against George Allen in 2012. I think she got about 20%. Allen got, 65%. So got crushed in that. Now, Jamie Ratke definitely has a reputation. She's done a lot of work for the Tea Party on the conservative side. She's got definite followers. I don't get the Susan Stimson endorsement because I don't see how Susan Stimson can possibly win a statewide race. She doesn't carry the credentials, she only got elected one time in a sectional race, a supervisor of a little county where there's only 4 precincts that she has to get elected in. So she got a total of 2,700 votes in total. How do you turn that into a statewide race?
I have made it my policy not to speak publicly about any of my opponents. I think that, with 7 of us in there, it's a convention. Anything can happen. But I'm glad you brought up the issue of experience, because I think that experience is imperative for whomever our nominee is and whoever our lieutenant governor ultimately is. This is a very serious time, both nationally, excuse me, and in the state. We just saw labor statistics and unemployment has gone up again nationwide. But in Virginia, the unemployment rate went down statewide, but it's still very, very high in South Side and Southwest Virginia. And I think that having a nominee who has served in Governor McDonnell's cabinet 3 years, as I have, who has worked as a partner to him and part of his team in focusing on job growth and economic development, I am more prepared, I think, than others, because I've rolled up my sleeves and I've helped the governor in that regard through my work in the Washington office. When you're on Governor McDonnell's cabinet, you're given the mandate. We were given the mandate from the beginning. Every single day, I want you to be working on how you can create another job. And so that's what the team has focused on all these years, and I'm proud to have been part of that team, and I have done my whatever I can from my position to create jobs, and that's what I'd like to do moving forward. But I don't think someone who hasn't been in the governor's office, who doesn't understand how the state is run from the inside, can do as good a job. After all, the lieutenant governor's position is an executive position, and you have to stand ready just in case the governor becomes incapacitated to move up and to be able to take the reins. And it's not a time for someone with a 90-degree learning curve. You need someone in there who knows what's going on, and I think that's what differentiates me from the others, because I do have that additional experience that the others don't have.
Now, Senator Davis, one of the arguments of the Jamie Ratkes and the Stimson backers are that, well, we need to add diversity to the ticket. There's the so-called war on women, and so it would be good to have a female as one of the candidates on the statewide GOP ticket. Well, you're also a female. Last time I looked at your picture, so
thanks, John.
I was going to say the last time I checked.
All the time.
Yeah,
there you go, Captain Observant.
Put it up on your Facebook page there. That was a clumsy segue, but I was going to say the last time I checked, but that just didn't work, so I had to change it.
Okay.
But what I'm saying is, you're one of 2 women in the race. The Stimson people say, well, we need a female. Mm-hmm. Well, why did they, and then when your name comes up, they discount you and they say, well, not that kind of a female. I don't understand this.
Well, I'll tell you, the kind of female I am is a female who has won 4 times in a Democrat district with a 17-point Democrat generic. Even though I have a 100% pro-life voting record, and even though I supported the marriage amendment, which failed, and voted for it, which failed in my district. So I think that if you're going to look at broadening the ticket, which of course I'm not going to push back from. I think broadening the ticket and offering some diversity is very important. And I think it's important because the Obama campaign managed to define Republicans instead of the Republicans defining the Republicans. And the way they've defined us and the perception they've created is that Republican Party is a party of white males who are racist and who hate women. And those of us that are Republicans know that's simply not true. But I think that when you can offer women and ethnic candidates for any position that are spokespeople for the party, then that just disavows what the Democrats have been portraying Republicans to be. So I would agree that I think that's important. But the bottom line is we need a candidate who can win. I am tired of working hard for an entire year just to have us lose our statewide elections, and we need a candidate who has won in a Democrat district in Fairfax County, and I've done that 4 times. I think that's imperative because you cannot win statewide unless you win 46% of the vote or more in Northern Virginia. We saw that again in this last election. And the reason we lost this election were ethnic voters turned away from our party, women voters turned away from our party, and I think we need a spokeswoman who can verify that this is not a party that hates women, it's a party that embraces women. Heck, look at all of we women who have chosen to be Republicans.
Why do so many in the Tea Party set, so to speak, tell me that you're a liberal in disguise. Why do they say that?
Well, because I think they have to create a contrast between me and Susan. Many of them have embraced Susan, but not all of them. I have been to Tea Party meetings. I was in one in particular where the Tea Party chair supports me, as does a pastor who's a member, and I left that Tea Party meeting with, I believe, most every vote in that room. And so I would say that the Tea Parties have different personalities and characters. I think where Jamie made inroads with certain Tea Party units, because she has taken Susan under her wing, those Tea Party units are gravitating towards her, but it's not universal. I'm not noticing that statewide. And there are other candidates like Bishop Jackson who are taking some of the Tea Party support. I think Tea Party folks, generally speaking, are free-thinking people. They're independent. They're getting to know the candidates, and they're choosing, based on which candidate they think not only represents their conservative values, but they're also looking at electability. Tea Party units are our greatest grassroots workers. They're just great grassroots workers. They worked their little hearts out, and they lost the election. And you know what? They're tired of working and losing. So I think they're looking for someone who can win statewide, who represents conservative values. And I know that if they take a close look at me, they'll know that I can that I fit the bill in both categories. I can't help what other candidates are saying about me behind my back. And I know that that's going on. It's unfortunate, but it is. All I can do is to get out, meet people, let them get to know me, understand where I'm coming from, who I am, that I do have a conservative record, and that just lays that to rest.
We are speaking to Jeannemarie Davis. She is one of the 7 GOP candidates for lieutenant governor, a former state senator, a former House of Delegates member, and, of course, a former board member, cabinet member, for Governor Gov.McDonnell. I would ask you on 2 key issues. Mm-hmm. In terms of the redistricting plan that happened last week, if you had been lieutenant governor and were the tiebreaker, if it had come down to a 2020 vote, which way would you have voted on that?
I would have voted with the Republicans on that. I carried the congressional redistricting bill in 2001, so I'm extremely familiar with the laws. I'm actually very surprised that the courts accepted the Democrats' plan, because in our statute we have a requirement that the districts be continuous, that they be compact, and that they have communities of interest, none of which the Democrats complied with. And I always like to use the example here in Northern Virginia. We have a district they created that was an Arlington district, a community of interest, compact, etc. And yet this new district goes from Arlington through McLean, through Great Falls, through Reston, through Herndon, and into Loudoun. Well, there's no community of interest between Loudoun and Arlington. I think what the state Senate did is they complied with the law. They created a 6 majority-minority district, and I think that that's piqued the interest of some of the Black Caucus members in the House. Mm-hmm. It complied with the law, but most importantly, here in Northern Virginia, we have one-party rule. We have no Republican state senators up here except for the one district in Loudoun that they packed all the Republicans in. And they did it by creating districts that don't have community of interest. The city of Alexandria does not have a community interest with Southern and Western Fairfax County, but they did 2 districts like that. So I think that the Republicans did a much better job. And you know what? They created competitive districts. They didn't put people together and say, here are 2 more Republican districts. They created competitive districts up here, and I think that's what people want to see. So I'm proud of the redistricting plan that the Republicans pulled together. It complies with the law. It creates an additional majority-minority district, which is more in line with the black percentage of overall population than we currently have represented. And they've created a competitive environment so that we don't have a one-party system in Northern Virginia, which we're all very tired of up here.
And the second question I have goes to the governor's transportation bill. Mm-hmm. The plan was obviously to get rid of the gas tax, increase the sales tax, and perhaps tap into a little bit of the general fund, with some of that sales tax increase being, let's say, bookmarked, because I hate the idea of a lockbox. It didn't work for Al Gore. It won't work for us. Mm-hmm. Can you tell me, are you supportive of that plan, or would you have modified that? How would you pay for the overwhelming needs of transportation issues in the state, both in Northern Virginia and Hampton Roads as it goes to expansion, and in building up the infrastructure through the rest of the state?
Well, I have thought this through very, very carefully, and I think I have 5 points that I would put in a transportation plan, most of which the governor has in his. The one thing that bothers me a little about doing away with the gas tax is the fact that 30% of that tax is paid by out-of-state drivers. In Northern Virginia, we have a ton of commuters that come into Virginia every single workday from Maryland and D.C., and you know what? They're filling their tanks up in Virginia because the gas is more expensive in their jurisdictions. Mm-hmm. And I hate to see those folks who are causing wear and tear on the roads not contributing. Now, the governor has a magnificent point, and that is that because cars are becoming more fuel efficient, you're seeing less and less revenue being generated by the gas tax. And with the CAFE standards that President Obama has just laid out, we're going to see that situation get worse. And I know that's what the governor was addressing when he made that decision. I would change the gas tax from a flat number of cents per gallon to a percentage, as you do for everything else that you assess sales tax to. That should bring in more dollars, and over time increase, because the cost of gas will trend upward, even though it fluctuates in the short term.
Hold on just a quick second. Are you talking about indexing it to the GDP or something similar to that, or
no,
like inflation?
You have a percentage per gallon. So, instance, when you buy, when you go out and buy a TV set, you pay 5% sales tax in Virginia. But when you buy gasoline, you pay, I think it's 17 cents a gallon.
Yes.
And that's causing a reduction in the amount of revenue that gas tax is bringing in. So charging a percentage of sales, as I said, it fluctuates in the short term, and you'll see up and down. But in the long term, gasoline prices have been going up. But I don't think that will be sufficient, and looking to something else in addition is appropriate. I just think a combination of the two, rather than doing away with the gas tax completely. That's kind of my take. Construction is a real issue, and what I'm hearing around the Commonwealth is, I don't want to pay for Northern Virginia and Hampton roads billions and billions and billions of dollars of construction projects that we need. And so I go back to a bill that I carried back in 2007, a regional transportation bill that allows Northern Virginia and Hampton roads to determine how they're going to generate money for construction in their own regions and not have the rest of the Commonwealth contribute to that.
So you would be a backer of Senator McWater's bill, which is regional transportation.
Yeah, I don't know the details of his bill, but it sounds that in generally, if it is a regional bill, then yes, that's something that I brought to the legislature when I was in the State Senate in 2007. A bill, by the way, that passed the House and the Senate that had an amendment added to it by now Senator Kaine, who wound up making that bill unconstitutional. And lo and behold, we don't have those hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars that would have been generated. But I think that's the key to construction needs in the two regions that need the most money. Lastly, I would offer for localities who can do it, and it's not very many, but it's Fairfax County, Prince William and Loudoun if they're interested, maybe Chesterfield if they're interested, in what we call devolution. And that's allowing counties who can handle it to maintain and operate their own roads by offering the same deal that Arlington and Henrico and every single city in Virginia currently have, because that would lessen the amount of maintenance and operation money that the state needs.
Senator Davis, we thank you for your time. We got about 20 seconds for those that want more information or want to sign up as a delegate for you. Where do they go? You got 10 seconds. Jeannemarie4LG.com, and the 4 is the number 4. Don't spell it out.
There you go. Jeannemarie Davis here on the John Frederick Show. We thank you so much for the time, as always.